All right, welcome to the Whitman Finance Committee meeting. Today is November 24th, 2020. Just go through our agenda that everybody should have received by email in advance. We have meeting minutes from November 10th that we'll be taking a look at perhaps tonight. They were emailed late this afternoon. Reserve fund stands at $49,647. Public forum is temporarily suspended due to the COVID-19 restrictions. If anybody wants to get a hold of the Finance Committee, has specific questions for the committee, they can email me at Rick Anderson, all small letters, at whitman/ma.gov. So under new business, we have initial budget meetings with budget managers. We have the treasurer collector and the clerk on the schedule for tonight. Under old business, we do have subcommittee reports on a placeholder. Also, Whitman-Hanson Regional School District Assessment and non-mandated busing are also on as placeholders for this committee. So other business, town administrator, there is no selectman meeting tonight. We may hear from the interim town administrator, and the accountant did send an email late this afternoon with some updates, so he won't be chiming into our meeting tonight. So upcoming meetings, we do have 3 more meetings scheduled for the month of December, and then the January 5th would be the complete cycle for the initial meetings with budget managers. So that is the agenda. I will forego the meeting minutes and we'll go right into budget manager meeting since we have Mary Beth here with us. Welcome, Mary Beth. You should know everybody on the committee. I'd like to introduce you to John. Noon is our new member of the Finance Committee, and he has, this is his second meeting. So with that, we invite you to unmute yourself and make a presentation of your budget, if you will.
Okay, well, nice to meet you, John, and thank you. So
Me too.
everybody should have a copy of what I submitted, I assume, for my budget. Just running down, well, does anybody have any questions right off?
So we're starting on line 44, which is the start of the treasurer collector's Article 2 lines.
Right, so for that line, I put in a 2% placeholder there for my budget. Pretty much level funded everything else except for the expense line 52. I restored that by the $5,000 that I cut last year. I requested $500 transfer at the end of the year, and it left me with $514. I actually didn't need that $500, but I hadn't gotten in my last Unibank bill for all the people that are paying online. So I was really close on that line. Already this year, I've held back some of the bills from going to lockbox just because I'm so worried about the budget line. So while I increased and put my expense line back to $19,200, I did reduce the tax title line by that amount, by $5,000 to offset that. I did have money left over in the budget last year on tax title, and I feel that's one place that I can shift some money to restore the expense line. It's just, I need that cushion there. If something, unexpected comes up, like this year, we're doing our healthcare reporting, and I've just received an email from Customized Data Services that their costs are going up a bit. So there's unexpected things, and if I don't, I'm worried for this year. I'm really trying to be very, very careful on every penny that I spend. But I really would like that restored for next year. And as far as the salaries on the staff, that is level funded based on their schedule. And this year, the schedule is 52 weeks in one day. Last year, it was 52 weeks. So you'll see a slight increase there, but that's really not a raise of any kind. That's simply the calendar.
Okay.
And, yep. I did increase the Medicare tax line because we did need a reserve fund transfer, or line item transfer, I should say, last year. So I did bump that up to 150,000. And then below, you'll see lines 261A, B and C. Those are debt payments. We will get the exact amount from Whitman Hanson. That's just based on the high school's debt schedule, and I applied a percentage of 59.96 for Whitman's share, which is what it was last year. Of course, it's based on enrollment every year, so that number could change a bit. And then you'll see the payments for any of the leases for the other departments. Any questions?
Questions from the committee? Anything from Mary Beth? So as you can see, her budget submission is inclusive of her department, and then all of the interest and maturing debt are also part of the information that she provides for Article 2, and that is included. So are there any questions regarding any of that? Kathleen?
Just one, Mary Beth. It has to do with an anticipated retirement.
Yes.
Do you have someone in line to replace that person?
So actually, and that's one thing I wanted to update you on as well. I'm going to have quite a few changes going on in the next few months. Michelle Hayes was set to retire in April of last year, and due to COVID, she delayed her retirement until December 31st. And of course, that's fast approaching. So I have already advertised that position, and I'm in the process of accepting applications, going through that. This week, I also received word that the benefits clerk, Jennifer DeVasto, has put in for, and she's applied and been hired as the clerk in the clerk's office. So she will be leaving. I have already posted that position, and I will be putting that in the newspaper next week. On top of that, I have another employee who will be going out on medical so that will be 3 out of 5 that will be disrupting things a bit. And we don't know at this time whether she'll be out 1 to 2 weeks or 6 to 8 weeks. So, you know, I have a lot going on, and I may have a person that applies for one of the open positions within the department, which will change and shift things around a bit. So there's going to be a lot going on. I don't know of any other retirements that will take place in 2022. At this time, there's nothing. We're an aging group, but the only one that I knew about was Michelle, so we did put in for that in last year's budget.
Okay, thank you.
The other thing I want to mention too is that I did go ahead and ask Ken to send me the section of the budget, which is line items 434 through 430, actually 434, 434B, and 435. Those are the water sewer debt amounts. They do fall under Dennis's budget, but I did submit the numbers for the debt to Ken for those line items. That was 434, 434B, and 435.
Sewer, water, debt. Yep.
Yep.
All of those lines related to that. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And the other thing I want to mention is I usually put together that packet for you on all other items, debt schedules and everything. And I certainly will be doing that, and I'll circulate that to you or put it in the mailbox, Rick.
Yeah.
I'll need a few weeks to gather information and compile all that. But I think you might, do you find that as a useful reference?
It is a useful tool, but I think in this COVID environment, it may be best if it can be submitted electronically, so I could distribute to the committee that way. Unless, does anybody want it in paper form? I can certainly mail it to anybody that wants it in paper form. But historically, you've provided that report for us in paper form, and I think it's very helpful, you know.
If you still want the information, sure, I can email it. That's not a problem. I mean, some of the debt schedules aren't the easiest, you know, to read, but I'll scan everything in and get the best copies I can. So,
Yeah, don't spend too much time if you don't already have it electronically. If there's something that somebody's looking for, we could always ask you for it after that. So I'd keep it as, you know, less time consuming, the better for you. And
okay,
then if we need further information, we could certainly ask for it.
okay.
John?
Yeah, this is kind of a combination question. When we met with Chief Hanlon 2 meetings ago, it was the recommendation of Madden to include the new police cruiser in Article 2. And it's a hefty amount. It's like $65,000. And you know, last year we were able to purchase a police car outright, but this year I'm not sure we're going to be able to. I know we've got debt payment expiring for police cruisers this year. I'm just interested in your comment on, you know, if it's decided to go back and lease them again, is that a big deal for the department? I mean, I'm not sure. You know, we're going to be able to afford to pay it straight out in Article 2, and I just interested in your
I
opinion
mean,
on that.
certainly the leases were always handled pretty much by Frank. I would just sign the 8038s, the tax document on the lease. So, I mean, it's not an issue as far as, for me, whether it's leased or, you know, purchased outright. I do understand, you know, that it's, of course, saving us if we are able to
Right.
purchase it outright. But it wouldn't be an issue to flip back to making lease payments.
Okay. All right. I just want to kind of throw it out there because, I mean, obviously we'll have discussions on it later in the year, but I just, while you were here, wanted to kind of, you know, where it's coming off of your debt schedule right now, there may, you know, possibly maybe another one added. I don't know. We'll decide that later, I guess.
No, that would be fine. What I did this year is I just said, you know, if you have lease payments, I can wire them rather than the departments cutting checks and maybe not making the, you know, by the due date, getting them to the companies. So I just asked all the departments to copy me on their warrants, and then I just wire the funds, you know, the day before they're due or the day they're due, just to keep better track of things. So
Okay.
that's new. The other thing too is we have that force water main project coming up, so we'll be borrowing, you know, quite a bit for that. I'm not sure exactly how much the DPW really wants to borrow, and if they plan to use any money out of retained earnings. The rates are very good right now, and you know, things are low, but I'm interested in you know, what the cost would be to the end user through the sewer bills. You know, so we still, I'm sure, have some work to do there. And then also the study that's being done for the middle school. So there'll be a cost that we'll need to budget for. I believe we're going out for a ban on that, a 1-year ban initially. And so there'll be a cost that will be added either in an article or to Article 2 for that as well.
Okay, so we'll get you that information just as soon as John sits on the Whitman Middle School Building Committee, and as soon as that information comes, we can get it, you know, pretty directly from that meeting.
Okay.
And also, we will be meeting with the DPW and the Water Sewer Department next week, so we should get some more information regarding that project. That obviously part of the special town meeting as well. So.
And I did have our financial advisor you know, prepare some debt schedules. And I forwarded everything that I've received onto Lisa Green. So she has all the information that I've received sort of as hypotheticals. I wanted to see the rate environment and so forth. But I can, you know, get you any information once I know the exact amount that the town wants to borrow.
Very good.
Okay.
Lisa, do you have any preliminary information regarding that?
Actually, I do. The DPW with environmental partners had a meeting with Brockton, some of Brockton officials earlier in the week regarding this project. And the amount of money is actually still a little bit up in the air because there's 4 different designs to this project. And each design has its own unique layout and cost. the two designs that they were leaning towards are in the area of about 14.5 to 14.7 million. And those include either laying a new pipe, literally right next to the old pipe, installing a whole new pipe. And the other design was somehow integrating the two pipes, which that, I don't really know how they do it, but there's still some decisions to make on the design. And then unfortunately, a state representative, Michelle Dubois, joined in the meeting and without really having a lot of knowledge, voiced a lot of concerns regarding the environmental issues. So that kind of put a halt a little bit on forwarding the discussion until she could get up to speed on what environmental issues they were facing, which Environmental Partners already covered a lot of that. So she just needs to get up to speed so she can be have a more educated voice in the process.
Very good. Thank you very much. Any questions from the committee about any aspect of Mary Beth's budget or any of the other information? Seeing none. Mary Beth, just one quick thing. Last week, we did have a discussion with Ken regarding the CARES and the reimbursement to the town. I know this is just on the fringes of the Finance Committee's review, but we share your concern about overextending reimbursements. How do you feel at this point on how reimbursements are going?
Well, actually, I did have a conversation with Chief Greno several weeks back with Tom O'Brien. And, you know, my question is, when will we hear on submission number 3, which was the ambulance? I believe it was 198,000. I spoke with Ken this morning. We haven't heard on submission number 2, which is 64,000, and submission number 3. And I believe that Tom said around the 24th. So I was waiting until Monday, and then I want to give Tom a call and check in on that. But Ken has not heard on number 2 yet, which was 64,000. And I think he's since then submitted 4, 5, and 6 for reimbursement. But, you know, as long as those come in, you know, in short order, and it's been several weeks, I think it was very, very smart to for Chief Greno to prepare for the vaccination, you know, clinic. So when that comes out, we'll be ready to roll. We certainly wouldn't want to be in a position, I don't think, to, you know, say that we didn't take advantage of CARES money and that Whitman's not prepared. So I think that was very smart, and I know some technology. So I think that once we get in the money for 2 and 3, what we've spent on the other items should be fine.
Okay, great. I know that, you know, just looking back at the previous meetings, I know you're very conservative when it comes to having money hanging out there. So we appreciate your input on how that process is coming along. So,
Good.
Excellent. Thank you for your input. Rosemary. You're still muted.
Just quickly, John asked a question earlier about leasing a police vehicle opposed to buying, and you had said that Frank handles that, and that would fall on Lisa at this point. I was wondering if she could speak to it, since that would be in her venue now. What was the question, John, again? It was about, should we be leasing this year opposed to?
Not should we be leasing, if the decision was made that we wanted to lease, because right now the police vehicle is fully inside of Article 2, which was Madden's recommendations, but he also said that, you know, we may not be in a position to implement that fully right away. Last year we did have some additional one-time revenue sources, so we were able to do it. Those revenue sources don't exist this year. So, you know, taking that $64,000 fully inside of Article 2 may not work this year. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But, and I just wanted to get Mary Beth's thought, you know, kind of throw it out on the table while she was here. That's all. I mean, we'll make that decision, or the town will make that decision later, I guess.
Yeah, we still have plenty of time to decide. You know, we really have to look at the overall budget, I think, and obviously the capital committee has to have some input as well before we get to that.
To that point, okay. And my,
But it's-
my assumption was that Frank had made that decision, and now that Lisa occupies that role, I wanted to.
No, I don't think Rosemary, it's the decision that was referring to. It was the process of making the lease payments, I think was the point.
Right.
So,
And the
Okay.
paperwork.
yep. Thank you very much. All right, Mary Beth, we appreciate you coming in. Just one more point that I have made to the departments that have come in previous to you is that the budget mailing that was sent out to all departments included, you know, a request to level fund salaries where it's not impacted by collective bargaining. I just want to make sure that everybody is aware as you come in, as each department comes before the finance committee, that we still have a structural deficit in the town. We are certainly not cured of our financial crisis that we've been in for the last couple of years. So just keep that in mind. That's all.
Very good.
Thank you very
All
much.
right. Have a good night. Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Same to you. Thanks.
All right, so that clears one of the budget meetings. I did speak to the town clerk today when I went in to post our meeting for next week. And there she is. Welcome, Dawn. We appreciate you coming and presenting your budget to the Finance Committee in this initial presentation format. We are prepared for you to take the floor and present your budget if you're ready. You are still muted. You're muted.
Muted.
Yeah,
How about now?
yeah, you're all set now.
All right. All right, so what you see before you is several budgets. First one is the town meeting and elections. As you can see, I know you guys aren't working with the same one that I'm working with because I got some new information. So, but I know this is the first round anyways. So, excuse me, I only need those to read. So for town meeting and elections, I have it as 25,000. It went down significantly, obviously because of the presidential. We're not having that this year. The only thing I do want to let you guys know, Chuck, by the way, the ballots were great. Was it your company that did them? Yeah, good. The thing with that was it was a very costly election that we just went through with early voting and early ballot processing, early voting by mail and all that. A lot of wasted money. I'd say 1/3 of the ballots that we mailed out, those people showed up to vote in person. It cost 70 cents a ballot. So that was a significant amount. We had about 5,000 people. I think that's what right around 5 million. Been playing with so many numbers. Right around 5,000 people who early voted, whether it be in person or by mail. So we mailed out quite a bit. And like I said, quite a few people showed up in person. And, you know, like I said, that's a waste of money. However, legislation, they're pushing through to have that happen for every election forever. So they want us to own it. So this is going to be an expense that I have no control over. It's going to be for the annual as well. So it's something to think about as far as when my costs, Mom, can you please help? When the costs, you know, don't go down like they used to, it's going to be because of all of that. So, and I don't have control over it. So anyways, and then the other thing I have a little bit of concern this year with is the, if the Democratic pick one of our persons in seat, maybe Warren, or there's been talk about Congressman Lynch maybe going to the White House and stuff, that causes a special election. Those are unforeseen costs that I can't, you know, I can't do anything about, and you'd have to have a primary, and then you would have to have an election as well. So that's my town meeting election line. So it went down. So I don't think that that's should be too much of a problem. Anybody have any questions or?
We'll let you get through the whole budget and then we'll open it up to questions, Don, if you don't
Okay.
mind.
Okay, sure. So then you get down to my salary. Woohoo, what a huge jump, right? after like this year's election, I probably deserve double this, but, and all town clerks will tell you that, and the state will tell you the same thing. What we just went through was history making, and the hours, there was so many hours involved. And I know it's salary, I know it's part of my job, and I'm not complaining at all. But it's something that the clerks are working at, trying to make it so it's not as many hours, because it was, for a whole month, it was until 10 at night, sometimes later, and then back in the morning, and I hardly saw my family and whatever. It was very stressful. So my line item reflects a 2%, I believe it's a 2% increase. I don't have a calculator with me, but a 2% increase, and also a 5% increase. And the 5% is, and I gave Rick I'm sorry everybody else for not emailing it to you, because I would have. It was something that I found later on going through things, was that back in 2004 at the May 3rd special town meeting, they voted an article for me and Mary Beth to, because we're elected officials, we didn't fall under that like 5, 5, and 5 and the 7 and 7 like the union people did. So there was an article that was passed. It was recommended by the finance committee at the time unanimously, and it was unanimously voted at town meeting to allow me and her being elected officials. Like when I leave, I don't like have sick time. I don't have vacation time. I don't, I don't get 5 weeks. We kind of go by what everybody else gets, but I don't have like an allotted amount of days that I can take off per year. I work 24/7. Whatever is needed to run the office is what I work. Obviously I do take time off, but anyhow, so that shows I'm in my 20th year, and that shows a 5% increase for going into retirement, and that's what that is. Then you get down to the certification. I have my certification, the $1,000, that's the same. Then you get down to the increases in salaries. The ones that you guys don't have is both lines 68 and 69 will reflect $43,070. And the reason for that is I just hired Jennifer DeVasto from the benefits clerk upstairs, and she is a level 2, but she's a step 10. So her salary and my assistant's salary is the same. So that salary line is per union contract and without any increases, even though if you put 4370 in line 69 on the clerical, it's going to show an increase because of the years of service Jennifer has. So she's coming back into my office starting November 14th. Hopefully all goes well. That she'll be able to come in. And then the expense, additional clerical overtime, 2,000. That's what I need. Need more, but that's what I can work with. We have a lot of 5 o'clock deadlines, nomination papers. As a matter of fact, tomorrow's a half a day for our town hall employees, but my office has to be there until 5 o'clock because we have to be there for initiative petitions and nomination papers and different state things. So some of the hours we can do, like if we know we're not going to get anything, or all the candidates have picked up all their papers, we can put a sign up to call me, and I put my cell phone number and I make myself available. Or we've also worked with the police department. I know one time the Democratic and the Republican town committees had papers to drop off. So I worked with Scott Benton at the time, and he allowed those people to drop the papers off, but they have till 5 o'clock on a certain day to drop them off, and the police department would give them like a receipt so that they had proof that they were dropped off. Those they're very strict with, the state's very strict with timing. We're like the timekeeper of the town. So it's very important for certain hours and for different things. And things that people don't even know are going on that are, that are running around, all the questions that were on the ballot. We have to certify all of those. Any candidate who runs for anything, not just municipal, but all your state, we certified presidential signatures, people who sign papers for, the president, because that's how you can get on a ballot is with signatures. So all that stuff has to come through our office. You guys sign them out there. You're in front of, you go to the post office. How many papers do you sign, Mr. Anderson? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So,
right of you.
yeah,
You know my
and I know your scribble. And, so basically, those are all behind the scene things that we have to do in deadlines and things. So all those signatures have to get certified by a certain date and time. Then the candidate comes and picks up the papers that they dropped off that you see floating around, and they have to bring them to the state. But we have to do the paperwork for the state. So we have a lot of 5 o'clock deadlines, and that's a lot of what the overtime, this year what the overtime is actually, we are so far backlogged in my office back to July. So, you know, Michael's trying to play catch up. We don't want to kill Jennifer when she comes in because we haven't been able to touch any of our regular normal workflow because of, you know, I'm like, thank God for COVID. I'm probably the only one that feels that way. But without that, it would be terrible, even worse. So that's my overtime line. My expense line, I went up because expenses go up, and every year, I'll be honest with you guys. I'm sick of being the sludge at the bottom of the fish tank, so to speak. You know, we're begging every year for nickels and dimes, and you know, and I'm not throwing it in your face, but I see money getting handed to everybody, and my expense line when I came on 20 years ago was the same money that you see today. And I think that's ridiculous. And, you know, I got cartridges, toner cartridges. I told Josh, you can't put my printers on the automatic order for my toner cartridges, because if in June my toner is running low and it automatically orders the cartridge and I don't have the money, you know, sometimes I have to shake my toner cartridges to make them last another week until July 1st. It's, you know, really, these are honest things that are going on in town hall, and I'm sure every department's doing the same thing. We're not wasting things, and I'm not going out and buying beautiful chairs or furniture or anything like that. This is toner, things, envelopes, and you know, and that's where some of these other expenses, everybody's increasing their costs on me because they're getting hit just like everybody's getting hit. So that's why I'm asking you to support me on some of my increases. You have a question, Al? No.
Yes, but no. What's your salary, Don?
My salary is
Yeah.
on here. It is $69,488. It's actually less than Hanson Town Clerk. Just so you know.
Okay. My question too is, how many employees work for you directly?
So directly, I have two people in my office, and then I usually have a senior who I've had since 2004, who's
Okay.
become a permanent employee to me. And then I have 50 poll workers, and then I have 3 registrars.
Okay. And what your work hour week? What is it? Is it 40 hours or is it less than that?
So my work week is funny. So I usually don't go in until 9, but I don't take a lunch. I don't leave. And some nights I can stay till 8. I don't have a work week being an elected official. If I get a call, matter of fact, this weekend, I got a call from Tom McKinnon. Somebody died. I can't say, sorry, too bad. It's not in my 31 hours. I have to go in and release burial permits and so that they can bury people. And that's a fact. And, you know, like I said, with this election, I was working probably 70 hours a week. But, so it depends. And then when we're doing census, I work, you know, later hours. And, you know, so it just, I don't have a work week, but I try to stay with the flow of the general 31 hours that, you know, I stay till 7:30 on Tuesday nights. Sometimes I stay later. Depends on if the mouse comes out or not.
Right. No, not a question. But you said 31 hours, though, correct?
Basically, yeah. It's all usually generalized on a 31-hour work week. So I work Monday through Thursday, and then I'm on call. I mean,
Hey, I don't disagree with you, Don. I work 60 hours a week. I'm salaried. I'm on call 24/7.
right.
And my salary hasn't jumped in a while, but not to knock it.
Well, this is jumping because I'm doing the 5% for retirement.
Yeah.
That's why you see the big jump.
Right, and that's what I mean. Is you want how far back we want to go, and how much is that going to cost the town to go 5% back? You wanted to go back?
No, it's 3 years. No. It's what Mr. Curran is he's in it now.
Yeah.
The department heads get 5, 5, and 5 for 3 years.
Yeah.
And then I retire. And if I don't retire, I have to give that back.
Well, in retrospect, we want to retire eventually, right? How much did that cost the town?
For what?
The look back of 3 years at 5%.
What do you mean the look back of 3 years?
Well, you're talking.
So
She's not
5%.
going back. She's not proposing to go back, Al. She's looking for a
No.
5% increase in her salary for this year for 20-year
For 20
longevity.
Yeah, 2022, 2023, and 2024, and then I'll retire.
Okay,
So let me just, before, Rosemary, I see your hand.
yeah.
So let me just get a few more pieces of information that the committee doesn't have. I think late
Right.
in the day today, you provided me, handed me a copy of this. And basically it's for Article 21 from a 16-year-ago town meeting
Right.
that approved the information that you're including in your revised budget. So just
Correct.
back to the budget as well, you cut and pasted a copy of your revised budget in an email that I forwarded to the committee. If you could submit your requested budget as an attachment, it would be certainly easier for the committee to have that information.
Okay,
So I don't have that, I don't have your revised budget because it's not a standalone document. It's cut and pasted into an email that you
Okay.
sent on Monday.
okay,
So again, the committee is going to review and base their recommendations to town meeting on the information that you provide. And if you could provide a copy of this 16-year-ago town meeting that you're referring to, the information that,
attach it to the email.
if you can, and that way
Okay, yeah.
everybody will have the same information. Like I said, when I went in to post the meeting, Dawn handed me this document, and this is what I assume she's basing her revised salary line.
It is. I mean, I
on.
can read it real quick if you want. It's not very
I
long.
can too.
What year and article was that town meeting?
Article
was-
21, I will read it. I think it'll help. So this is on the town clerk's letterhead. It says, I hereby certify that at the special town meeting held in Whitman, Mass. On May 3rd, 2004, the town voted as follows. Article 21. The town voted unanimously to offer the following benefits to the elected town clerk, town collector, and town treasurer, and transfer the sum of $1,750 from line 79 lease purchase maintenance of Article 2 of the May 5th, 2003 annual town meeting to pay the cost of these benefits for fiscal year 2004. And then number 1, beginning the first payroll period after June 1st, 2004, and thereafter on the first payday following July 1st of each succeeding fiscal year, a longevity stipend, provided the elected official has at least the minimum number of years service to the town in a paid capacity as follows. Then it has a chart. It says length of service and stipend. Upon completion of 10 years of service, $250. Upon completion of 15 years of service, $500. Upon completion of 20 years of service, $1,000. And number 2, upon completion of 20 years of compensated service to the town, the official holding one of the aforementioned positions may, upon notice to the Finance Committee, not later than December 1st of the current fiscal year, request a longevity salary increase effective July 1st of the next fiscal year of 5% of the current fiscal year salary, provided such increase is approved by town meeting. This completion of the third year's longevity,
No, it said, no, you missed that line. It says
on
15
completion of the third year's longevity, the elected official salary shall be reduced by the amount of the longevity salary increases received in the prior 3 years. This was proposed by the town administrator, and the finance committee recommended unanimously. And then it's a true record attest, Don Varley, town clerk, Whitman. So
So that
for
was this,
2004, this is the action taken at town meeting.
it was during a special town meeting, and what article was it?
Article number 21.
21, okay.
And it's section 2 of 21, but
Now, Don, just generally, can you say that this article has not been amended or revised or rescinded in the 14 years since?
it has not.
Okay, all right. So there is the information that she's providing in a backup format, I guess. We didn't hear anything from the treasurer collector regarding her intention to utilize this
She
longevity.
doesn't have 20 years, so she wouldn't. It says I have to let you know before December 1st, and that's what.
When you have 20 years.
Yes.
Okay. Very good. Anybody have any other questions regarding that aspect of the salary?
No, my just last question, Rick, probably, Lisa,
Go
are
ahead.
you aware of this?
Am I aware of it?
No, is Lisa aware of this?
Oh,
No, I was not aware of it. This is the first time I've heard of it.
Okay.
and Rosemary, did you have a question? You got to answer.
Sorry, you answered. I just wanted to see when it was voted in
Oh,
and
okay.
but I'll wait till the next. I just had another question.
Okay.
When we're done with this.
And then, like I said, as a follow-up as well, when you provide the copy of this, just provide a standalone copy of the amended Article 2 that you submitted to the accountant, if you could, Don.
Sure.
If you
And
send
I
it to
think
me,
John
I'll
has a
forward it to the
question.
committee. Yep. John, you had a question?
Oh, no, sorry.
No, the other John.
Oh,
Sorry,
sorry,
I'm gonna have to clarify which John.
Don,
John
you
Newton.
mentioned the town inspector is on that course currently?
Correct. Or I think this was his last year.
So it has come into play in other budgets when we're looking at the town building inspector. Is that your understanding?
Yes.
He's not elected, though. That's different. He's not an elected official. So
So,
it's different for him.
right. So I can't be negotiated with, so I can't have a contract. So I'll tell you a little bit of history of why this was done. So Mary Beth, or not Mary Beth, it was actually Joan McDonough at the time and Pam Martin were the only two people in town who could not get any retirement or any, well, what did they call this? But any retirement when they retired, get their stipend. And but everybody else was getting it. All police, fire, all union personnel. Everybody had. I think their contracts were 7 and 7. Some were 5, 5 and 5. So somehow Pam and Joan had negotiated, had talked to Frank, and they came up with this to mimic what other contracts had. This isn't something that the other contracts didn't have. The only thing is they've taken it out of all the contracts, and me and Mary Beth Carter are the last two people who this would, like, it's out of everybody else. Like Bob Curran negotiated that with Frank, or I'm assuming it's, Lisa may know it's in his contract. Karen Huxham got grandfathered in, even though it was taken out of the contract for the town hall employees. But they said because so-and-so got it, then she was a town hall employee, she should get it, and because she should get it, Bob Curran should get it, and that's how. But this is
Okay.
a town meeting vote. This isn't
Yeah.
even a negotiation thing. This is something that the town meeting voted.
Right. I think it's important to, as you mentioned, note that the fact that this provision of the collective bargaining agreement is no longer a provision of any collective bargaining agreement.
Right.
So I think that's important for the committee to know as they debate the merits of whether or not we have the resources to recommend this to the town for financing. Rosemary.
You're muted, Rosie.
I am unmuted. It's going to take me a second. I'm sorry. So this is the Lexington project, the Lexington plan, and I'm talking to Lisa right now. If I remember, Frank said there were only a few people that were left in it, and my understanding is that they allowed some elected officials to mimic a benefit of the Lexington plan. Frank spoke about this, that he only had a few people. Did he have a list of those people that were intended to be on that, or what was going on? And then, if there's no document saying that this was pulled or this, was no longer available, I don't know how we would have any way not to honor it. He was clear that there were just a few people left over, so he must have had some sort of knowledge of who they were.
Lisa, can you update on that?
I only know, basically, I do recall Frank mentioning that there were only a few people that would fall under that particular not, it will, I mean, it's not a contract, but fall into that particular retirement benefit. And I think Bob Curran is one of the last. I don't think he said there was anyone else that was included with that. I mean, I could be wrong because this was something that happened a little bit a while ago, but I don't know if he had a list or not. I mean, there's still many things that I'm still finding out and, you know, learning about as Frank kind of took, you know, he took the front seat on that and always kept me in the back seat. So there's still a lot of things that I'm figuring out with this as well.
Okay, so yeah, I think at this point, maybe the best thing to do is, if you can, Lisa, do a little research into the 555, which does mimic the 7-7 Lexington plan, as Rosemary made reference to. And it is no longer, as far as I am aware, a part of any collective bargaining agreement that is in play in anywhere within the town. So you can get that information back to us, and you know, with all due respect, Don, we just get more information as we weigh the, you know, the pros and cons of
Well,
implementing.
it is a town meeting vote, so.
Right.
Right.
It's a town meeting vote, so unless the town meeting
Right.
reverses somewhere, there's
Yeah.
really no decision for us to make. We have to. honor
Well,
it.
it is subject to the town approving the funding. That
Right.
it's
Right.
written into the.
I mean, so I could just negotiate with the, well, not negotiate, because there is no negotiation.
Right.
Right.
I could just go to town meeting floor and,
You absolutely can. Yep.
Right.
You are certainly welcome to do that. But again, like I said, the whole crux of
I
it
mean-
is whether or not town meeting approves the additional funding.
the
That's all.
thing is you asked Frank to research it. Frank's the one that wrote it. He was the town administrator back in 2004, so,
Right.
I mean.
We can, you know, there was certainly
by
an
him.
economic condition in 2004 than there is in 2020. That's all.
So one last question that I've been trying to get in there, but have your volunteers, I know you rely heavily on volunteers, has COVID affected your ability to have volunteers, or has that been okay?
From my office
Yes,
for,
for your office.
actually, believe it or not, my workers, they've stuck behind me 110%. And I had 2 people that didn't work, and I had 9 extra people on the presidential night, and you did not see Whitman in the newspaper. No comment further for that. You know, we did a wonderful job. No ballots were locked up, hidden anywhere, and I could not have asked for a better run election. And I give kudos to myself, because that's about the only one that's going to give it to me. So we ran a very good election, and my workers, I got to tell you, I owe them. You know, they represent me. They stand up for me. What they do wrong, they don't get in trouble. I get in trouble. So they all know that, and they all came, and they came happily. And so that's like another thing Justin Evans is, has emailed Mr. Anderson about they don't make minimum wage, and Justin would like to see their salaries, according to Mass General Law, Chapter 151, Sections 1 and 7, it's the minimum wage. Even though we're a municipality and we do not need to follow state minimum wage, we have to follow federal minimum wage, which is $7.50, I believe. I think, Justin, I mean, so like somebody said to me, you know, when you try to get election workers to fill the seats, and you go up to them and they're like, well, how much do I get paid? And I say, oh, it's $11. And they're like, well, minimum wage is 13. I'm like, yeah, I know, but you know, it's kind of hard to tell people, you know. And I actually had 2 volunteer National Honor Society students who came in. They were wonderful. They read the results. They were amazing. They actually ran the 2 early voting tabulators that processed the early voting results. So I didn't have a problem. I made sure that all my staff had plenty of PPE, whatever they wanted, they got. Whatever they felt comfortable doing, they got. And I don't think not one of them felt uncomfortable. You know, like I said, I was very happy and very proud of them, all of them.
Well, thank you. I'm going to say thank you. You did a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think there's nobody on this committee that doesn't agree that the work of the the entire election was yeah, something to be proud of. There's no doubt.
Right. I was just reading Justin's email, Don. It came through today, and yeah, he makes a very good point about the workers, and he has a better appreciation for the process and whatnot. And his
He worked an
calculation,
election, yeah.
yeah, his calculations were, maybe only adding, a couple $1,000s, to a yearly budget with a presidential election. So, and like you said, going forward, if the state's gonna kind of mandate, or if we're gonna go with this early voting and all this other stuff, it still sounds like quite a bit of work for you guys in the clerk's
Oh, yeah.
office.
It is.
But yeah, you did a great job, so I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chuck. So, Don, just to follow up, I did forward Justin's email to the full committee. Which line would that affect if in fact you are going to increase the?
The town meeting and election line, the very, line number 1.
Okay. Yeah. All right. And you have any projections based on the outlook for next year on what the implications could be to that line? Should you increase them to minimum wage?
Oh, I think it's minimal. If we only have the annual, that's a short day. It's, minimal.
He
You know,
said
it's
1 to
only-
2,000. You think that's in the realm? Or?
Yeah, yeah. But then again, if they do the early voting and the voting by mail, that changes everything.
Perhaps you could do a little bit of an outlook if in fact, this is something that the town wants to move forward with.
Yeah.
The Board of
Yeah,
Selectmen
Justin
are recommending.
he just came forward with me with that as well, so,
Yeah, so if you have any updates, if you want to put together a little projection, it may help. That's all.
okay.
Okay, further questions for
I mean,
Don?
I can tell you real quick on elections. I'll give you some numbers if you want some numbers. So for early voting for the primary, the cost was hang on, I think it's a 3. That's awful. $3,841.33. That did not come out of town meeting and elections. I was able to put that under COVID money because the state did not decide to have early voting for the primary in September. So because they made special legislation because of COVID, it could then fall under COVID. So for the early voting presidential, the cost was $11,162.52. That was for all my staffing for the 14 days. I mean, we were required to work Saturday and Sunday, no breaks. We did early ballot processing as well. So we worked straight through, and I had some people in my office behind the scenes that were alphabetizing the ballots as they came in. They had to be inputted into the computer. There was lots of behind the scene work too that had to be done so that when people went online, they could say, oh, I see my ballot was mailed, or they got my application, or that stuff had to be entered. We're the ones that entered it. The state didn't enter it, we did. So that was 11,000. The primary elections for the salaries, this is for the salaries only. This is no expenses that, like markers. I mean, that sounds crazy, but with the markers and the COVID and stuff, they wanted the markers to be sanitized, things like that. The primary election salary for just the election on September 1st was $5,918 and change. The salaries for the presidential election was $7,993, $8,000 for just the election salary. That's without all the other things. I got 12 state advisories. Everything was changing on a daily basis. I mean, somebody would call me up one day and everything changed the next day. As far as the ballot box, I mean, as silly as that was, I know you guys seen it all on the news and stuff, how the ballot box was, somebody threw something in and set it on fire. So we had a directive from the state. It was no joke. And the police, I didn't feel our ballot box was under that much. I didn't think anybody's going to blow it up, but the police helped me out, and they came and they monitored our ballot box. Technically, they wanted you to bring them in, different things like that. Halloween, it was mandatory that the ballot box was locked up. I used my grill cover and I covered it. I mean, I have photos of it. I duct taped it all around, put a sign on it. It ended up destroying my grill cover, but that's part of the course. But like I said to the state, you guys cared more about a ballot box than you did the humans running the election. And it's pretty sad that they gave a directive to protect a ballot box and no directives to protect the people inside. But anyways, everything was done and we followed all the directives in as far as like audits and things. So I'm still, you know, you think the election's over, I'm still getting phone calls every day. As far as, you know, because Dominion, you see it on the news, the fraud, you know, is there fraud? Do we use Dominion? The answer is yes, we do. We use Dominion software. And so then I get questioned, well, how do you know that my ballot was cast, you know? And, you know, like I said, you know, there's a process that Massachusetts does that other states don't do. And we do test decks prior to the election. We take ballots and we mark them as if we were a voter. And we have to mark them in a certain way so that every oval that gets filled in is accounted for and that the machine accounts for it, whether they're write-ins or whether they're candidates. And we have to run them through. We use the auto mark machine, which is the handicap machine. We have to use some of those ballots. That has to be tested. We do an unofficial test as soon as we get our ballots. Sometimes our ballots are, we got another town's ballots and another town got our ballots. Sometimes that stuff happens. So you have to go through every box, make sure. Anyway, so then we test, do an unofficial test. That's just to make sure that when we do our official test that people come in and view, you know, that everything's right. The only time it's ever been wrong is when we make the mistake. We use a tally sheet. It's little hashtags that we put in and we might select write in instead of blank or something. So the errors have always been human error. And then I was involved with we didn't get audited. So the state of Massachusetts audits 3%, and they have a raffle drawing, which thankfully I didn't get pulled. Milton got pulled. They got pulled last in 2016 as well, and they had their audit. And I partook in both audits because I think it's good for the town if I'm exposing myself to what an audit would happen. If we get audited, all 4 of our precincts could get audited. And if you get audited and you're off, you end up having to count every single ballot by hand. So these, you know, I have never seen these machines in the 20 years that I've worked with them, Dominion or not, be wrong, ever.
Okay.
So I would put my life on that your vote, if you filled in the oval the proper way and your ballot went through, but I'm getting, like I said, phone calls every day, at least 5 a day. People, they watch the news and they're worried, did my ballot count? Well, I mean, I don't know what ballot is yours at this point. But
Yep. Oh, we
just so you know,
appreciate,
yeah.
yep, we appreciate the detail. And like I said, you know, going back to the question about the salaries and the minimum wage, that's something I'm sure we'll have, be bringing up with the selectmen. I'm sure Justin will be bringing it forward to the next meeting.
Okay, so you want me to go on then? So, Al, you all set with my salary?
Yeah.
Well, I'll
Oh,
email
yeah,
that.
your salary, Don, your salary was actually fine. You were spot on. My concern though too is you guys have a decent staff that works there. My concern as a finance committee member is we're dealing with the senior center losing money, the county department, your department. You got the DPW. You know, where's the money coming from? There's other departments out there, not yours, Don. There's other departments. I'm not going to nail or talk about other department heads, but
No.
you know, it's out there. There's money to be made, and I'm going to throw Lisa on the spot here real quick. Frank Lyman left, right? He's gone. He was what, $150,000, $180,000 employee with benefits.
His salary was 130, 733 exactly.
With benefits and add all that up too, right? About 40% on top of that. It adds up. He's no longer there. I'd like to see that going to other departments like yours, Don, in the departments I spoke of. So that's all. You did a fantastic job. That's all.
Thank you.
So.
Thank you.
Oh,
I'll go on real.
if I could respond
Go ahead, Lisa.
to the question.
Yeah.
So, as you know, the town of Whitman Board of Selectmen hired a consultant for, you know, to conduct a search for a new town administrator. And based on their salary research, and I have researched that Frank conducted regarding the salaries of town administrators in the area, they advertised the salary for the position at 145. You know, plus or minus based on qualifications and things like that. So, you know, saying that the money that Frank was making can go to other departments, it needs to stay here because the Board of Selectmen will be interviewing finalists presented by the consultant and then negotiating with whoever they offer the position to, the salary. And since it was advertised at 145, a placeholder needed to be put into that line for that salary.
Yeah, well, do they have a, sorry to interject here, but don't you have an assistant town administrator yourself, a lawyer? You're doing that too at your salary too as well. Are we going that route with a town administrator full boat at that salary and an assistant?
So, well, let me just interrupt for 1 second, because we're going to be talking to the town administrator, the interim town administrator, with respect to the selectmen's budget. And that's where that line will be. So it's a little out of context because we're sitting here
Sure.
with the clerk and we're talking about her budget. I understand, what your point was,
Yeah.
that, we could look at other parts of the budget to fund some additional line items that are within this particular budget that we're looking at. So I understand your point, but I just don't want to spend too much time looking
Sure.
ahead
Fair
at
enough. Thank
another
you.
line, that's all. Is that all right, Al?
That's fine, fair enough.
Yep, thank you very much for and Lisa for the answer as well. So does anybody have any questions additionally for Dawn regarding the clerk's budget or anything to do with the clerk's office?
No.
Seeing none, Dawn, thank you very much. And again, please pass on our collective appreciation for the work that you and the clerk's office does with respect to elections. You definitely you demonstrated the work can be brought to a high level in this past election. So thank you once again.
Yes.
Can I
Thank
ask
you,
you
Don.
guys, can I ask you a question? What's the next step that you as a board plan on? I mean, I know you guys must have some type of a plan of, so you've met with me now, you guys are gonna discuss this, or
We have still, yeah,
again, or
we're not even halfway through with the budget meetings for this particular initial cycle with all the budget managers. It doesn't end until the first week of January.
Yeah.
And at that point, we'll be starting to talk about individual line items, Al's point, where we'll look at the overall budget and decide, where we can put the limited resources of this town to best serve its residents. So there's a lot to do. There's a lot of moving pieces. So as we do move forward in the budget process, if we have more questions regarding specific lines from your budget, we may reach out. And if you have questions that you want to get to the committee, please send an email and I will get it out to the rest of the committee, because we will be talking about your budget and every other budget from now until town meeting.
well, should I reach out to Kathleen because she's my liaison, basically, or?
Or if you
Yeah.
have any questions.
I
you
don't
can-
know. I'm asking so I know. I'm doing
Absolutely,
the right
that's
thing.
what the liaison is for. So
Okay,
if you have specific questions, you reach out to Kathleen or myself. And if they are something that, we can answer easily, or we'll bring it up to the next meeting. That's all.
okay, great. Well, thank
All
you
right.
guys very much. Appreciate
Okay,
it.
thank you, Don.
Yep.
Have a great Thanksgiving.
Bye,
Yeah,
guys.
you as well.
Thanksgiving.
Okay, so our next on our agenda is, we have the previous minutes. Does anybody, because they came late in the afternoon, just raise your hand to anybody that would like to have a little more time to review them? Okay, we'll bring that to the next meeting. That's the November 10th. We also have November 17th. Samantha will get to us, so, and in the meantime, take a look at that for our meeting next week. Under old business, we do have subcommittee reports. Building Facilities Capital Expenditure Committee. Dave, anything?
No change from last update. We did receive some preliminary numbers from Water and Sewer in regards to their water main project. But we haven't had a chance to discuss them with Dennis Smith. So we really don't, other than just general numbers, we don't have much information on that. So that's the only update I got.
Okay, Dave, thank you very much. All right, Regional Agreement Amendment Committee, nothing to report there. Middle School Building Committee, John,
we-
nothing's happening?
No, we don't meet until December 7th, I think it is.
Okay. So Whitman Hanson Regional School District assessment is a placeholder as well. So before we hear from Kathleen, our liaison, I just like to just follow up. I did watch the school committee, this last school committee meeting. And I'd like to say I appreciate the fact that Fred Small tunes into our meetings and provides a full color commentary to the school committee. He was pretty outspoken about my comment regarding the fact that our liaison wasn't given an opportunity for an audience with the superintendent to talk preliminarily about the budget. And so just want to kind of go back to my comment that I made. It was really out of exasperation for the fact that Hanson isn't providing the same level of interest in the budget at this time as the Whitman Finance Committee. I think it's important that we take a look at every department, and the schools are certainly our biggest department. So I think, Fred was he took great offense, apparently, to the comment I made. And so I just like to say I'm almost doubling down, because I'm really concerned about the fact that the district isn't taking the time to talk about some things that we could really get started with the budget. This is a year where they're either going to negotiate the terms for the next collective bargaining agreement. They did talk a little bit about maybe given an extension of a year to their budget. For the next negotiations. So those are things that are obviously going to affect the school budget. Those are things that we could really have an opportunity to have a discussion, and that is why we have liaisons to every town department. So, like I said, I just wanted to kind of respond a little bit to that. And also, he took exception to the fact that I had a conversation with Don Byers regarding non-mandated busing. So that's something I feel very strongly that we should commit to a discussion about. And I will always defer to a subject matter expert as opposed to using my own limited knowledge for a subject such as that. So I think Don represents somebody who has demonstrated a lot of commitment to getting the information and putting together a preliminary plan that could be implemented really quickly. So those two things, again, I just want to say that I have the utmost respect for the school committee and the work that they do on behalf of the students of the district. I just want to say that we appreciate the work that they do, but understand that we have work to do here, and it's not always the same. So with that, I'll turn to Kathleen. Do you want to give a little update?
Well, I'll try to make it brief, but I know it won't be, because I want to be upfront with everybody. You all know that I'm a big school advocate, and I'm going to go back, not really 2 years, just a year and a half. In the spring of 2019, at the height of a booming economy, there were some closed-door meetings in Whitman to discuss an apparent budget shortfall, and the outcome was the schools cut 19.2 positions. There was no discussion at town meeting, and I was furious as a citizen at the time that there were no advocates at the town meeting explaining why this budget cut was necessary, including school advocates. No other department lost personnel in 2019, just the schools. And that's how I ended up asking to be appointed to the FinCom. I spent a lot of time last year mastering the intricacies of the statutory method and was totally frustrated that Hanson never told anybody anything other than we can't afford it and this is a violation of a 20-year partnership. And so we ended up compromising at the 11th hour to avoid the schools in late July having no budget to work with under COVID restrictions. 2 months later, Hanson finds the money to spend $1.3 million on capital improvements for their town after we agreed to a $570,000 compromise. So I think this whole issue of transparency, and I hate the word because it gets overused, but I go to public meetings and I state my positions publicly. I don't go to private meetings or closed door meetings. But when I've heard recently that there have been some discussions that the budget holder for the schools was somehow transferred from changed from 5% to 3.5%, and there was some discussion. Well, it wasn't at a public meeting. It was at private meetings, and I don't mean sneaky private meetings. I just mean private discussions. We're the FinCom, and we should know this, or at least have a discussion about it before any change is made to our Article 2 document. So I think that public discussions or meetings where, and I agree, there should be Hanson member present in the discussion with the superintendent, but we're talking about a $55+ million budget. He's not going to be able to explain it in 30 minutes at a budget meetings with us on December 15th. So I am frustrated that, and I understand he wants to appease both sides, that he doesn't want to look like he's playing favorites, but I am annoyed that a meeting couldn't be scheduled. And it was interesting that none of the Hanson school committee members leaped on board to say, yeah, we should have a FinCom member from Hanson show up at a meeting and have a joint exchange of ideas. So I do, and I also picked up on the discussion that I shouldn't be asking for specific documents. Well, I am going to be asking for the same documents that we asked for last year. This is not new. I actually forwarded to Rick the December 19th letter he sent to Jeff Simonick last year with the list of specific budget documents that I put together based on my experience as a former school committee member. I know what numbers I wanted to know, and those numbers led to an increase in 4 elementary school teaching positions to reduce the class size, which is not something that the school committee started. It was me at a school committee meeting saying your class sizes are too big, and I suggest you advocate for adding 4 positions. So am I annoyed? Yeah, I have a pretty thick skin, so I'm gonna lose no sleep over this, but I really do believe that we have to have a more open discussion. Hanson has to have skin in the game this time, not hold their cards to their chest and keep us guessing what can they afford, what can they not afford. And I don't want to hear Hanson can't afford this or we can't afford this until we've had a full discussion. So I did forward to you, Rick, the letter from last year. I will add to it the kinds of questions that need to be explored with regard to the non-mandated busing. That's $400,000 we're spending this year. It may not all be spent because they did have a discussion about how many kids are on a bus, how many parents are dropping off their children, how many children are homeschooled or being taught 100% remotely. So I do want to pursue with John Tuffy, if he's the right person, exactly how much money is being spent in non-mandated transportation, or can we expect a reimbursement from the schools as we did last spring when the schools were shut down. So it would be nice to have had a meeting scheduled prior to December 15th, but the clock is ticking, and I have a full-time job, so I don't have 24 hours, 7 days a week availability to meet with somebody. But I think that my offer to meet could have been met more with let me get someone from Hanson to agree to come to this meeting as well, and then we can have a discussion and prepare for the budget managers meeting when Jeff appears with us. He didn't even appear at the Hanson FinCom last year because they didn't meet in public. And that's all I have to say about that.
Okay, Kathleen, we appreciate your comments, and I concur wholeheartedly that the time for the discussion about anything that we're going to do with non-mandated busing is now and not in the 11th hour as we have in the past. Dave.
Kathleen, just out of curiosity, what exactly was your request to the school committee or to Jeff?
I introduced myself to Jeff as the liaison from the Whitman Finance Committee and asked if he would be available to meet with me for preliminary discussions prior to the December 15th budget managers meeting where he and the school committee members will be attending. It was a pretty nondescript, it wasn't a request for specific documents. It was just for me to meet with him to go over how are things shaping up, because I've attended in person 2 school committee meetings where 0 discussion was spent on the budget, and it's a big budget. And that was my only request, was to sit down and talk to him. And he felt uncomfortable meeting with me without having a Hanson representative also present.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's why I ask. I mean, if they don't have a budget presented, what is there to discuss as a finance committee member?
Could you run that by me again, Dave?
If the school committee doesn't present a budget to the finance committee, what information is there to discuss? That's the issue I'm trying to wrap my head around.
In terms of me meeting with him before he presented it to the school committee, I understand, but they haven't had a discussion about budget since July 29th, as far as I can tell, and the clock is ticking. And we put pressure on them last year to appear a little bit earlier than they have in the past. And they are scheduled to meet with us on December 15th. So it was simply to have a preliminary discussion to see how the budget is shaping up, because I did ask a question, not at the meeting, but a side conversation with 2 of the administrators to see how the budget was shaping up. And the response was, we have no idea what we're going to be doing next year. And I said, well, you're going to have 3,000 plus kids and several hundred teachers. So you're going to have to pay them. There has to be some sense, whether we're still remote or still hybrid, there has to be some sense of the magnitude of the budget. It can't be, we have no idea and we'll find out somewhere down the road.
So Dave, I just to follow up too a little bit is like, we're going to ask for specific documents. And I think the best way to ask is in person. I mean, we could send a letter as we did last year. We could request specific documents regarding class size and that type of thing. But where we have a liaison, that reports directly back to this committee, we could have some advanced information so we could formulate and better educate ourselves in advance of our meeting with the district on the 15th of December. So that's more or less where we were on that discussion with this last week.
All right. I mean, it's just fine. That's fine by me, whatever.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Thank you, Kathleen. Rosemary?
I'm just going to go back to the Finance Committee handbook for instruction, the state handbook. We're supposed to be getting a sense of all budgets and trending forward, or getting a sense of things for 5 years. It's a good idea to have a general idea of how to collect your levy. So we're not asking for a solid budget, but an idea. This year, we put a placeholder. I'm sure we've asked for a placeholder. We've all agreed, selectmen, Finance Committee, to follow those Madden recommendations at 5%. So I'm hoping that they did the responsible thing and put a placeholder at that 5% for the schools. But generally, you want to be able to have a general idea of what your biggest budget's going to look like before you even set the levy. And I've had this
you're breaking up.
conversation with Jeff when he was new, when I made that statement. Okay, he was surprised when I had said, or right around before the levy's set, you need a general idea of what we're gonna need, because that's where we get the money to pay for it when we set that levy, making sure that we can do that. So somebody made a comment on the Finance Committee being just an advisory committee, and it's true, but we're local government, and generally every position should be an advisory committee, advisory to what the people want and what the people have asked for. So we do control the Article 2, and what was most upsetting about a selectman influencing the Article 2 and Jeff only communicating with that selectman and not the Finance Committee was it undermined oversight. We have a financial oversight committee, and we own the Article 2. So I'm hoping that people keep that in mind and understand that and follow through with oversight, particularly when you watch the meeting and you see the whole beginning of the meeting where they're paranoid about being investigated about this swing of money, $7 million vacuum that has gone between the towns, primarily into Hanson over the years. And, it's maybe there should be a little more oversight here. and less trying to avoid it. Thank you.
Okay,
Well,
thank you. Thank you for your comments.
To follow up, my point is, I mean, we already have our guidelines for the budget. 2.5% for every department and up to 5% for the school. Board of Selectmen voted to approve that. Finance Committee read in the Madden report and voted unanimously to approve that. So I don't understand why we need to jump inside the workings of someone's budget and wrestle amongst it when our guidelines are already set forth for us based on the Madden report.
Kathleen, you want to answer Dave's question?
I may be wrong, Dave, but you may have missed the FinCom meeting where the budget, the placeholder for the schools was 3.5% without any advance warning to FinCom members. And that's what my reaction was to, is that how did it go from 5 to 3 without a discussion at the Finance Committee?
I was there, and Ken Lytle said it was, he did it based on a discussion offhand he had with somebody. And we all said, put it back.
Yeah, so I think we're well beyond that now. I think that we all realize that the Article 2 is really just a worksheet, and that selectmen can use an Article 2 as well if they want to. But again, I think it's very important that we know that the Article 2 that we're working with as a Finance Committee is the only Article 2 that we're discussing in our Finance Committee meetings. That's all. So, Rosemary.
Selectmen, the Article 2 is an exclusive document, according to all the information I've read, exclusive to the Finance Committee. If a selectman is interested, they can go before the Finance Committee and make their case. They can work on a separate document that is their own, make recommendations and forth, and no changes to the Article 2 should happen without the Finance Committee voting.
That's what I said.
And no individual Finance Committee member should have any influence. We are one group.
We know, we got 9 voices and we're all gonna be heard.
Body.
Yeah, okay, thank you for your comments. Okay, I think that's it. With the old business, town administrator, Lisa, is there anything you would like to update the board on?
I don't have much. I attended the Mayflower Municipal Health Group meeting earlier in the week and was hoping to have some idea of what the insurance rates were going to look like for the next fiscal year. However, both Pilgrim and Blue Cross Blue Shield are delayed with coming out with any rates right now. They're still gathering data on what impacts COVID's going to have on medical rates and things like that. So they announced that we hopefully will have some idea of insurance rate increases in January. And at this point, I wouldn't even be able to guess of what they're looking at for increases based on how hard the medical industry has been hit by this pandemic. So we're still waiting on that. Obviously, we're waiting on some other numbers to come in to finish putting the budget. But we do have, the Article 2 is, like I said, Rick, underway, and we're just plugging forward as we can, as each day comes by and new challenges present themselves. But we work through it and see what we can do. That's pretty much all I have for today.
Hey, can I just follow up on the discussion that we started on the strategic plan?
Yep.
Are you committed to moving forward with looking at some consultants and making recommendations to the Board of Selectmen to how we move forward with that?
Well, yes, I have been working with one consultant who has put a presentation together. She will be going over the presentation on the December 1st meeting. So I can send anybody the link to the meeting if you'd like to listen in. I sent her all of our documents that we've had created for us over the years through grants, which includes the master plan from 2004, the call-in center, it would be the classification study, the CIP program, the the capital improvement plan, the housing production plan, even though that is not adopted, she could still use the data contained in that document. I also sent her the survey that was done for us a couple years ago by Melissa Tarsi, and also any other just random documents that had some information on the demographics of Whitman, our financials, holdings and things like that. And again, she's put a presentation together and is hoping to get some direction. Again, you know, a strategic plan can be as wide as you want it or as narrow. And we're hoping to just get a little bit more information and direction from the selectmen of what they would like to see in the strategic plan based on all the documents that I've sent to her, what she can focus on and put together. So that will happen on Tuesday.
Dave.
Was the Madden report one of the documents that was that they reviewed?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Yes, it was.
Okay, and just, you know, just as a perspective, you know, the strategic plan is something that this finance committee has been talking about, and I incorporated into our annual report every year for the past at least 5 years. That said, that was one of the goals that we were working towards. So I just hope that we continue to move forward with that. That's all. So that's why I asked.
Yep, I'm full steam ahead with it. Been working with somebody who knows what our budget is, and she's assured that she can put something together within our budget that hopefully we can all be very happy with.
Excellent. All right, and as far as the accountant's update, I did email the information that was sent by Ken today. So if you, the rest of the committee could take a look, see his updates as they included in that small report that he sent out today. So does anybody else have anything that they want to bring up on the good of the order? Rosemary, and then Chuck, and then John Galvin.
It was to Dave Cadero. Mr. Cadero, did these schools send out a list of projects that they haven't finished yet that were voted in? Or any updates on that, like the Duval roof or any other projects that the town voted that there's money that's there but not being used?
Are you talking about the Capitals Committee?
Yeah, the capital for your capitals committee. Yes, they had mentioned in the meeting that they had sent you something.
They sent the capital matrix that we haven't reviewed at a committee yet, so I didn't feel comfortable discussing it.
Okay, when you do review it, is there a way you can share that to this committee, please?
I'd love to, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I forgot who I said was next. Chuck?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah, Rick, I just wanted to double check on our emailing about getting the South Shore Vote Tech in. I spoke to Superintendent Hickey last week, and he typically, and he will be presenting his proposed budget before his school committee. It's the third Wednesday in December, I believe. He felt that trying to meet just before that wouldn't be very conducive. So he said he could be available for any time after that. Of course, we're not meeting the last two. And he said once he gets his proposed budget before his school committee, he could email all the headliners and some of the information for our committee. And then January 5th, if that's a good date, I'd like to get back to him. He penciled it in, but I would like to confirm with him. And at that point, he would be ready to, take questions on the budget from our committee.
Okay, right now, the only town department I think we have on tap for January 5th is the selectmen budget. So that is the only one that's right now on the schedule for January 5th. So I would say yes, that would probably be a good date to meet with the superintendent for that particular budget review.
Okay.
So if you want, Chuck, just to follow up, could you just email me with a communication so I can just confirm with the schedule? That's all.
Sure. Yep, I'll CC you. Okay.
Thank you. Kathleen.
Just quickly-
Sorry, Kathleen, hold on. John was next.
Yeah, I'll be real quick along the lines as Chuck. I spoke with Kathy Keefe this morning. If the Board of Assessors had confirmed that they could meet with us on December 8th, and she told me she had not heard back from all of them, I asked her to please let us know in the next day or two to confirm that date.
Great,
That's it.
because that really has to go on the posting, and I'm trying to stay 2 weeks ahead, because we also have to, advise the Whitman Hanson Cable Access to make sure we have somebody to run the meeting. So there's like a 2-week lag time that I really need to make, confirm with each department. So appreciate all the work that the liaisons are doing to communicate with the department heads and make sure we get them all in here before the end of January. So thank you for that. Kathleen?
The only point I wanted to make was that I have on my schedule, the Board of Health is also coming in on January 5th.
Yeah, I do too.
Okay, because we moved them.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
We had to
Yeah.
reschedule them, yep. So we can always move the selectmen. Lisa is pretty amenable, and she's almost at every one of our meetings anyway. So if we moved selectmen to the next 12th, January 12th, as long as it didn't conflict with the selectmen's meetings, that might be a way to get the that school in here on that date as well. So we'll take a look at the schedule during the week, and just, if you can, just feed me back the responses as they come back from the department heads. Anybody else? Lisa?
Actually earlier when we were talking to, when you folks were talking to the town clerk regarding the 7-7 that you were speaking of.
Mhm.
So I did find in the right now 2011 contract for the town hall collective bargaining agreement, there is a clause in there. It is under longevity. And the language of that states, any employee at the completion of his or her 20th year of employment may elect to receive the following increases over a consecutive 2-year period. 7% effective in the first year and an additional 7% in the following year. However, effective the 3rd year, this employee's salary shall be decreased by 14%. This is actually, I went ahead and looked at the next contract on that. This is in the 2012 to 2014 contract. So the language did change a little bit. So this was in the town hall collective bargaining agreement. And I believe that's where Frank got the information and where Bob Curran, the building inspector, fell into that that type of salary plan. So it is in the collective bargaining agreement.
Yeah, Frank did give us a pretty good tutorial on that, I
Yep.
think last year or the year before, and how it morphed from that 7-7 into the 5-5-5.
Into the 5-5-5.
Right.
Right, that I haven't found that change of language yet. There's, contracts to go, other contracts, but at least I found this going back to at least 2011, where that language I found so far.
And I think that the discussion was including that Bob Curran last year was in his final year of the 5-5-5.
Correct.
And now with this budget request for this year, he has reverted back to not include that 5.
Lisa and Rick, question with regards to Don. Don's an elected official. Now, is Bob Curran an elected official?
No, Don is not, I'm sorry, Bob is not an elected official.
I understand that. There's 2 different realms here. We got an elected
Right.
official with a town employee that's hired by a manager. Now,
Well, I think that was the reasoning that this town meeting back in 2004
yeah,
elected to do this. It was somewhat of a parity
Sure. Yeah.
motion, I think, to get the elected officials in line with the other departments that are, bargained separately.
I was just asked to do a little bit of research on that, and I just wanted to let you know what I came up with based on
Right.
history that I looked at for contracts.
Does that answer your question, Al?
I think so.
Okay, well, there's always time for another one.
All right.
Rosemary?
I'm confused on why you would, my understanding of the Lexington plan was to encourage people to retire, I believe, people who had been there a long time and their salaries. What would be the purpose of doing that with an elected official? I mean, wouldn't they just, forego the cost of the?
I think it was an economic parity, not necessarily a motivator. I think.
It was just my understanding of what Frank had said, but I may be wrong.
I don't think Frank ever described this particular Article 21. I don't think, that's the first I've ever seen of it, so.
No, not Article 21, the Lexington, what was it? The Lexington plan, I think is what he was describing. And if it's supposed to mirror the Lexington plan to some degree, I don't know.
No. Don't have the answer to that.
I don't either. Yep. Okay. Anything else?
Happy
Okay.
Thanksgiving,
Yes, great. Thank you, Al.
Thank you, Al.
everybody.
Thank you,
All
Al.
right.
Thank you, Al.
So our next meeting is scheduled for next week. We do have the DPW confirmed, and we do have the water sewer, Dennis Smith is also confirmed. So hopefully you all are available, and we look forward to seeing you all. And as Al said, have a happy Thanksgiving.
Bye.
Everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Giving everyone.
Motion to adjourn.
Yes, okay. We have a motion and a second to adjourn. We'll go around the table. Kathleen,
Yes.
John Noon,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
John Galvin,
Yes.
Al,
Yes, sir.
Chuck,
Yes.
Ralph,
Yes.
Rosemary,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Well, thank you very much.
Good night, everybody.
Who seconded?
Happy. Have a good holiday.
Like,
Thanks.